You think your problem is your salary. You think that if you earned a little more, you would finally breathe. You think that with more time, you would finally move forward. But there is something you feel deep down, a strange sensation that appears every time you try to rise. It is as if something inside you quietly reaches up, grabs your ankle, and pulls you back down. Your real problem is not what you earn. It is what you believe you must endure to deserve it. It is not your bank account that keeps you small. It is a hidden rule carved into your mind, a rule you never chose, a rule you have followed without noticing, a rule that millions of people obey every day while believing they are free. You will not find this rule in an economics book. You will not hear it on television. No teacher will talk about it. But it sits behind every choice you make, behind every hesitation, behind every fear that rises when you think about money, behind every excuse that feels safe, behind every moment where you settle for less. Let me ask you something simple. What if the real prison was not the lack of money, but the mindset of someone who expects to lack? Every morning, you wake up, you work, you earn, you spend, you repeat. You call it life, but who told you this was life? You were taught to work so you could survive, to survive so you could pay, and to pay so you could work again. A perfect cycle, a clean loop, so perfect that no one recognizes the cage. They told you money was a reward. What if it was conditioning? Once you believe money is a reward, you automatically place work on the side of pain, and you place spending on the side of relief. Your mind becomes an obedient system. It suffers, it waits, it receives a small pleasure, and then it returns to suffering again, just like an animal trained to repeat the same action for the same treat. And the more you earn, the bigger the relief has to be to satisfy you. You think you need more money. What you need is a completely different relationship with it, because what you call motivation is often a controlled escape. You are not always working to advance. Sometimes you are working to protect yourself from a fear you do not want to look at. This is the moment where the hidden rule takes its place. Money becomes the medication for a fear it never truly cures. You can work 20 years without ever understanding how money moves. You can exhaust yourself without ever getting richer, because money does not reward effort. It rewards understanding. And this understanding begins in the mind. The wealthy do not try to deserve money, they try to understand it. While most people trade hours for survival, they detach value from time. They know that the person who depends only on time is doomed to exhaustion. You can multiply your effort, but you cannot multiply your 24 hours. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. Why do you think the system teaches you to be productive, but never teaches you to be lucid? Because a lucid mind becomes uncontrollable. A lucid mind sees the rules. And the moment you understand the rules, you stop obeying them blindly. The system does not need bars or chains. It only needs you to believe that you must earn the right to rise, because a person who feels they must earn everything will never question the structure that keeps them earning. The real problem is not economic. It is psychological. You can lack money and be free. You can have plenty of money and be imprisoned. The true trap is subtle. It is the fear of not having enough. When your salary drops into your bank account, your brain does not celebrate the value you created. It releases a sigh of relief. This relief tightens the loop. Work, fatigue, reward, relief, emptiness, work again. You are not earning money, you are soothing an anxiety. Neuroscience calls this the relief bias. Your brain prefers a small feeling of safety now instead of a larger freedom later. As long as you obey this bias, you stay tied to short-term comfort. This is why the lottery fascinates people. It promises release without learning. If you look around, the entire system is built on this mechanism. Sales, subscription models, credit systems, loyalty points. Everything is created to keep you balancing between lack and relief. Never enough to break, never enough to change, just enough to stay quiet. You think you are spending your money, but most of the time your money is spending you. Ask yourself something very honestly. How many times have you bought something to calm yourself instead of moving forward? How many times have you worked more to silence a fear instead of building a vision? And what if, without noticing, you have been trying to accumulate wealth not to be free, but to prove something about your worth? Breaking this rule does not mean working less. It means reacting less. As long as you react, you are not choosing. Your mind is choosing for you. Your brain wants safety before it wants freedom. That is biology. But safety becomes an illusion when it becomes your cage. The wealthy are not fearless. They simply learn to act despite fear. They walk with it instead of running from it. They know that the fear of lack is not a wall. It is a mirror showing you the part of yourself that has not grown yet. And when you dare to look directly at that mirror, you realize it never talked about money. It talked about trust. Every time you avoid a decision because it feels risky, you feed your need for control. That need becomes the locked door to your freedom. You think you are protecting yourself, but you are teaching yourself to stay small. Start simple, re-educate your mind. Every dollar you earn should stop being a relief and start being a seed. Every expense should be a strategy. Every fear should be a signal you examine, not a command you obey. Your money does not need to grow first. Your relationship to money needs to grow first, because when you change the way you see money, money changes the way it comes to you. A few years ago, there was a man named Julian. He was living in this exact loop. A perfect employee, never late, always polite, always chasing the end of the month. He told himself that when he got a raise, he would finally live. But each time he earned more, he spent more. The loop restarted, again and again. A script he never wrote, but kept performing, until the day he realized something that broke the illusion. The problem was never his salary. It was his logic. He began giving a mission to every dollar. $1 to learn, $1 to invest, $1 to build. No dollar left without a purpose. Something shifted. He did not feel richer. He felt freer. The fear dissolved. And for the first time, opportunities began appearing in places he never noticed before. Julian did not change his life. He changed his perspective, and perspective determines direction. Poverty is not always a number. Sometimes it is a habit, a posture of the mind, a way of thinking where every action comes from fear of losing rather than desire to create. You can be mentally poor with a full bank account, because real wealth is distance, the distance between you and your impulses. Wealthy people are not always more talented. They simply see from a higher place. They observe instead of reacting. They pause instead of panicking. They think instead of comparing. And because of that distance, they see opportunities where others see danger. Most people live like players who do not realize they are inside a game. They panic, they rush, they compare, they copy, they chase illusions. Meanwhile, a smaller group watches, studies, waits, acts, and eventually wins. Psychologists call this the comparison trap. The more you compare yourself, the further you move from your own path. And that is exactly what the system wants. Because a person who doubts their value will always try to prove it, often with money. Real wealth begins when you understand this truth. Your attention is your most valuable capital. Whatever you give your attention to, you fund. If you fund fear, fear will keep you poor. So what now? Begin with a real question. What do you truly want your money to buy? Safety, status, freedom. Every expense strengthens a program, either the program of fear or the program of mastery. Breaking this rule does not mean leaving your job or winning the lottery. It means seeing money for what it truly is, a mirror. And if you do not like what it reflects, the mirror is not the problem. The reflection is. This is why so many people fail to become wealthy. They try to make more money without ever changing the way they look at it. They want freedom with the mindset of someone who still feels like a prisoner. Money does not create freedom. Understanding money creates freedom. The rule that keeps you financially trapped was never written anywhere, not on a contract, not on a bill. It was carved into your mind by fear, reinforced by routine, hidden inside habits so old that no one questions them anymore. It is an invisible loop that survives as long as you believe your value comes from effort instead of clarity. Breaking this rule does not mean refusing to work. It means refusing to obey blindly. It does not mean chasing wealth. It means chasing lucidity. It does not mean eliminating fear. It means walking with it without letting it decide your life. Because in the end, money is only a language. What it tells you depends entirely on the way you speak to it. You can continue using it to soothe your anxiety, or you can begin using it to build your freedom. But until you see that everything begins in your mind, you will continue living in a prison without walls. So the next time you hear yourself say, "I do not have enough," remember this. The real question was never how much. The real question has always been why. And the moment you dare to ask that question is the moment the loop finally begins to break.